Hello everyone, in today's video I'm going to be talking about the books that I feel have impacted my life the most. So I've picked 10 books and they span right across my reading life, some from my childhood and some from more recent years, but I feel that in some way they have impacted my life, whether they've introduced me to a genre that I now really enjoy or they have just given me some kind of long-lasting effect for whatever reason. So I'm going to start off with a book from my childhood, and that is Matilda by Roald Dahl. I think the first time I read this I was very young, probably about 5 or 6 years old. I used to read a little bit every night before I went to sleep, and I think the reason Matilda has stuck with me is because I think it was the first time I came across a character who was a little bit different, who had this amazing power inside her that she learnt to control and nurture and ultimately use for good. And I also think it was the first time that I come across a character that I could fully relate to. Obviously Matilda is a very shy, quiet girl who loves to read, much like myself at the time. So yeah, I think that's probably why Matilda is still one of my favourite Roald Dahl stories, and certainly a book that I always think about when I think about my childhood. Another book that I think has had a big impact on my life is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. This was the first adult classic that I read. I think I first read it when I was about 12 or 13, so I was starting to make the transition from children's fiction into something a little bit more grown up, and it just introduced me to classic romantic comedy in general and Jane Austen in general, and I really enjoy her books and books by similar authors as well now that I'm in my adult years. So yeah, I think Pride and Prejudice, I've read it a few times since and I still love it just as much every single time. I also really enjoy all of the film, TV and theatre adaptations that I've seen, and it's just really funny, and I remember laughing out loud at it the first time I read it. So yeah, it's certainly a book that I always think of when I think about the very first classics that I ever read. Another book that I think has made a big impact on my life is Bad Girls by Jacqueline Wilson. This is the first Jacqueline Wilson book I ever read, and between the ages of about 8 to 12, she very quickly became my favourite author. I devoured her books, I absolutely loved them, and this was the first one I ever read, so it just kind of sparked that love. I think her books, I can pretty much credit her for teaching me a little bit more about human compassion and understanding, because I think they kind of taught me for the first time that not everyone has perfect cozy family lives, and they have various problems that I don't have, and I think they just kind of reminded me and taught me that I need to be more understanding and accepting of anyone and everyone, no matter their background or their problems and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, I know that Bad Girls and Jacqueline Wilson in general taught me a lot about all of that. Another book that has definitely made a big impact on my life, and this will come as no surprise to anyone watching this, it is of course Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone by J.K. Rowling. Of course this book has had a massive impact on my life. I talk about this series still on a daily basis all of the time, because if I hadn't read this book then I would not be a massive Harry Potter fan. So yeah, of course this has had a huge impact on my life. I don't think I need to say any more, because you guys knew, I'm sure, as soon as you saw the title of this video, that this would be definitely included in it. Another book that I feel has had a big impact on my life is Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll, and I think this was really the first book I read that was a little bit whimsical, a little bit weird, and I love whimsical weird books now, so I think I can probably credit Lewis Carroll and Alice for that, and it's still one of my favourite classic children's stories, so yeah, it's definitely had a big impact on my life. Another book that has had a big impact on me is Mouse by Art Spiegelman. This is the first graphic novel that I ever read, and I really enjoy graphic novels now. I just love the whole mixture of words and pictures and how they come together to create a really great story. So if you don't know what Mouse is, this is a little look at the Holocaust between the Jews and the Nazis. In this, the Jews are depicted by mice and the Nazis are depicted by cats, and it's just a really unique and powerful way of telling that story, and it's just so lovely. I know the first time I read it, it just had such a big effect on me, even though I knew everything that had happened obviously during World War II between the Jews and the Nazis. It just kind of put it in a way that I'd never thought to have put it before, but still made so much sense, if you know what I mean. So I thoroughly recommend picking this up if you're interested in that period of history at all, or if you just kind of want to see those events in a completely new light. So yeah. Another book that certainly changed my adult reading tastes was Paper Towns by John Green, because this was the first YA book I read as an adult. So I can credit John Green for that. I was recommended to this by a real life friend at the time, a long time before I'd discovered BookTube or anything like that, and I really enjoyed it, and I went on to read The Fault in Our Stars, and then obviously I went on to read a whole lot more YA. So yeah, as an adult, I can credit this book for my love of YA. So yeah. Another book that I really enjoyed and has definitely had a big impact on my life is The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky. Just the message of this book and the issues that it deals with just kind of taught me that it's okay not to be okay, and that a lot of people go through similar issues to what I've been through in recent years. So I think that this book really helped me during a time when I needed help. So I think this has definitely had a very big lasting impression on me. Another book that has had a big impact on my reading life is The Shining by Stephen King. This wasn't actually the first Stephen King book I read. The first one I read was The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, but I didn't really enjoy it all that much. But I bought 3 Stephen King books. Before I'd read him at all, I bought 3 Stephen King books in Waterstones. This was probably when I was about 15, 16. I wanted to dive into horror. I'd heard that Stephen King was like the master of horror, so I went out and bought 3 of his books on a whim. This was one of them. The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon was another one, and Christine was the other one. And I read both of the other 2, Christine and The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, before I read The Shining, and I just thought they were okay. And then I read The Shining, absolutely loved it, and so I guess I can credit The Shining for starting my love of horror. So yeah, and particularly Stephen King horror. So yeah, this is still a really impactful book in my life. And the last one I actually read earlier on this year, so this is a really recent addition to books that have changed my life, but this one certainly has, and it is Reasons to Stay Alive by Matt Haig. When I read this earlier on this year, I gave it 5 stars, and it was exactly what I needed at the time, because in this he just talks about the value of life and why we should want to be alive, and all of the little things that we often overlook that we really shouldn't overlook, because they're actually probably the smallest but the most important things about life and being human and learning to love the life that we've been given and all of that. It's really lovely. It's based on truth. There are aspects of truth in this. He talks about his battles with mental health problems. So if you haven't picked it up and you do suffer with things like suicidal tendencies and depression and pretty much any mental health illness really, then yeah, I would definitely recommend this, and it certainly had a massive effect on me. And that is it for the books that I feel have impacted my life the most. What books do you feel have changed your life or given you something for life? Please let me know. Are they any of the same ones that I feel have impacted my life the most? Please let me know. If that's the case too, I will leave all of my social media in the description down below. I hope you're having an awesome day, and I'll see you very soon for another video. Bye bye.